When you buy a ticket to a movie, what you're really purchasing is an admission into someone else's mind. And things don't always go the way you think they might. Whether it's because of fear, sickness, or outrage, sometimes not the whole audience makes it through the whole film. Here's our list of 10 shocking movies that made people leave the theater. The Lion King. Lots of kids worldwide have been traumatized by at least one Disney movie. They follow a familiar formula. And someone always died. Usually within the first 5 minutes, the protagonist loses a parent in some traumatic fashion. And even though there's always a happy ending, it's never happy enough to take away the sting of what you saw earlier. One of the most tragic events happens in 1994's The Lion King. Apparently, the stampede scene was so harrowing that groups of youngsters had to be removed from the theater and calmed down in the lobby. We don't blame them. In fact, just thinking about it is enough to bring us to tears. 127 Hours. Based on the true story of an adventure gone wrong, 127 Hours gets its name from the amount of time Aaron Ralston spent with his arm pinned under a boulder. While exploring solo, Ralston, played by James Franco in the movie, gets trapped in the remote part of the canyon he was exploring. Not an easy place to be seen. The film has a lot of unsettling moments, and it's not easy to watch as Ralston begins to slowly waste away in front of our eye. But the big shock comes when he realizes that the only thing between him and his freedom is the lower half of his arm. The escape is brutal both to see and hear. Thankfully, Aaron Ralston survived, and his story serves as an ode to human determination. The Exorcist. It's hard to say if more people left showings of 1973's The Exorcist because they were scared or because they were offended. Upon its initial release, there were reports of theater patrons fainting and going into shock. Nobody had ever seen anything quite like it at the time, and some argue that we haven't seen anything like it since. Audiences were horrified at the thought of demonic possession, but the fact that it was happening to a child was unbelievable. Some religious groups didn't approve of the way the subject matter was handled on screen, and launched protests against it. The filming itself was very forward-thinking, and Hollywood learned some valuable techniques in the process, including how to scare moviegoers right out of the theater. The Blair Witch Project. Everyone knows the Blair Witch Project was filmed on a shoestring budget. Having minimal cast and crew was a great way to cut costs, but at what price? The movie has almost made $250 million worldwide, even though a good portion of the audience can't watch it without getting motion sickness. During its theatrical run, the film made headlines for a few reasons, but the constant bouts of nausea that plagued some viewers was chief among them. Despite every indication that the Blair Witch was clearly going to be a found footage movie, some tender-tummied folks tried to brave it anyway, but they were disappointed and had to leave when the filming style proved to be a little too much for them. Avatar. Audiences have come to expect a lot from James Cameron, and every movie he makes takes us somewhere new. Whether fighting the Terminator, escaping from a sinking Titanic, or exploring the abyss, the director has a style all his own, and in 2009, his film Avatar exploded at the box office. But not everyone watching enjoyed the journey to Pandora. After one man suffered a heart attack around the same time he saw the movie, some people began to speculate that the stunning CGI visuals of Avatar were to blame. We're not cardiologists here, so we're not entirely sure of the science, but we do agree that the environments were pretty spectacular. Tree of Life. Most of the time, if you go see a movie and end up not liking it, you'll probably forget about it and move on. And the beauty of film lies in its diversity. There's something for everyone. When 2011's Tree of Life brought two radically different groups of people together and forced them all to sit in the same room, things got ugly. Writer and director Terrence Malick merged science and religion in exploring one man's relationship with the idea of fate, and turned both subjects into one big conversation. Some audience members were so upset that they wanted their money back after seeing it. This happened so frequently that theaters across North America started to post disclaimers about their refund policy, making sure that patrons fully understood what they were getting themselves into. Hostel. Say what you will about its content, or lack thereof, 2005's Hostel has some very convincing special effects makeup. The movie is the twisted brainchild of Hollywood gore fan Eli Roth, a man who loves horror so much that he even ran a goratorium in Las Vegas, one of the scariest haunted houses of all time until it closed down. Roth doesn't hold back when it comes to his big screen work either, and hired legendary special effects makeup designer Greg Nicotero to take visuals to the next level. Audiences had a hard time sitting through the film, and paramedics had to be called on more than once to help people who were vomiting, fainting, or having heart attacks because of it. Fantastic Four. Marvel's characters have found major success on the big screen, and have had some of the craziest opening weekends of all time, but it seems they're having a hard time convincing audiences to care about one particular group, the Fantastic Four. The 2015 adaptation was ill-fated from the get-go, so a box office flop seemed like a fitting end. Reshoots after the fact and changes made in post-production are most commonly cited as being the reason for its overall failure. Even the actors are embarrassed of their involvement. Audiences seemingly went in expecting the movie to be bad, and were still shocked by it. The studio got the hint and canceled the a sequel right away. Reservoir Dogs. Okay, so we've determined that it's hard to watch a fellow human lose an appendage, but for the most part, we assume that people behind the camera develop a thick skin and become desensitized to the bloods and guts of it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to work. But for horror icon Wes Craven, one scene in Reservoir Dogs was apparently so disturbing, he had to leave the screening of it. Fans of the movie will remember a sequence where Michael Madsen's character Mr. Blonde slices off a police officer's ear to the tune of Stuck in the Middle with You. You'd think the man behind some of the sickest cinema of all time would be able to handle a little ear amputation. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. If you've opened your eyes in the last 6 months, you probably know that Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice is a movie that exists. Everyone knows that it made millions of dollars worldwide, but that's where the consensus ends. While some fans really enjoyed watching Batflick flail around in his fancy iron lung, the others were outraged, arguing that director Zack Snyder missed the mark entirely. It's nothing new to hear that fans are divided over an adaptation of a comic book character, but what is surprising is how many people were offended enough to actually leave their seats, feeling like both Batman and Superman were being portrayed in ways fundamentally contradict to their characters. Ticket holders left in droves. So what did you think of our list? Did we miss any shocking movies that made you leave the theater? Tell us about it in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more fun videos like this one.